Hi everyone, this is Killshot from 99 Gaming, and this is The Walking Dead Season 9, Daryl Replacing Rick. Tonight we're going to lay it all out on the table. We're going to talk about character, storyline, and even the actors. I do have to tell you, do not hate the host here. We are talking theories, and I know some people immediately, they don't even want to entertain that idea. They don't even want to go down that road. When I talk about it, they cast a shade on me like I'm the writer. I want to talk about it. Those of you in the 99 Army that are here every night, you know that we do some really in-depth debate, and that's what it's going to be. I'm going to give you several things that could lead you to go in that direction because we have, look, I think with our head, with our heart, we've all thought about Rick leaving, and I think we feel that's the best thing is leave and come back. But even if he leaves and comes back, somebody has to step into that role, and Daryl will replace Rick, at least on a temporary basis. His salary is replacing Rick's salary. I also think there's going to be some things with his storyline. If you guys saw the video I did a couple hours ago talking about Henry, I'm going to incorporate a couple other ideas. They're going to be food for thought. I want you to think about them. If you guys are new to these streams, they're very interactive. You can see a lot of people streaming along the side there. We want your thoughts. We want your comments. We want to include it in the video. And if you're watching a playback, leave it in the comments down below. So I am going to just jump right into it. The first thing I want to talk about is this concept of AMC throwing a whole bunch of money at Norman Reedus. So the word was out there that Norman Reedus got $20 million, which is true. But $20 million over a 2-year period is probably $60,000, $70,000 per episode raise. Norman was getting over $500,000 an episode this last season, he and Andy both. So he was making over $8 million. So $8 million, probably maybe closer to $8.5 million, $17 million. He got a $3 million raise over 2 years. Not in this type of world, it is a nice raise, but it's not something where they doubled his salary. So first of all, let's get that out there. But he is paid the most on the show. So he is the leading man. He's going to have to step up. And I know a lot of people out there that are Daryl Dixon fans. It's going to be a little bit different because you almost have this when you have a starting quarterback on a football team, people tend to like the backup quarterback and they can do no wrong. So right now, Daryl Dixon, no matter what he does, there's just this fan club, this contingency that just always forgives Daryl. When you're the lead, you are scrutinized a little bit more. I do have to read a live comment or a comment from one of the videos I did, and sometimes we get into trends and talk about different things, but this person left a comment on one of the videos and said, I used to watch your videos every day at work, but now it just seems like you want to blame Rick for everything. You know what? I may blame Rick a little bit tonight, but that clearly is not all we do here. It's not a Rick bash fest. I love the character of Rick Grimes, but I'm also trying to visualize The Walking Dead without him, at least on a temporary basis. And I would say we better just get used to doing it because he's not going to be there the whole season and likely will not be there next season and may not be there forever. So it's a tough pill to swallow, but swallow it. You most certainly will. And that, I can't say it any better than Negan. Let's talk about something that I incorporated a little bit earlier. And then someone had commented with I said, Daryl and Henry, there could be a bond forming. And it might have been Eric or someone had typed and said, well, Kills, why would you think that Daryl and Henry, there could be this father-son bond? They haven't even had any time together on the show. Well, that doesn't mean anything because the show is intentionally trying to get less and less predictable. There is still a story out there of Rick. There is still a story out there with Carl. And I don't think you have to tell that story line for line. It doesn't necessarily have to be verbatim from the comic, and they don't want it to be. But there's several reasons why I could see a Daryl-Henry relationship start to change. Daryl, especially in a leader role, is going to need to be more grounded. Kids can definitely ground you. A relationship could definitely ground Daryl. I'm going to go one further, and I'm going to give you reasons why Henry. I'm going to drop the bombshell here, and I'm going to say that Daryl's love interest is going to be Cindy. I see it coming out of left field. Couple reasons for that. One, I know some people, you guys said Carol for the longest time. It ain't going to be Carol. Carol's with Ezekiel. Other people saying Rosita. Ain't going to be Rosita. Rosita is in Alexandria. She's got stuff to deal with. I don't know if Rosita will make it past this season. But Cindy she's made her way up to Hilltop. Daryl has changed his allegiance to the Hilltop. Is there... I don't know if there's a better couple out there than the two of them. I think it's made for television. Yes. I think Cindy has been with the Oceanside for a long time, and they killed all the men. I see a Daryl and Cindy relationship on the horizon. I think it's great for television. And I think Henry is going to be partnered. He's going to be looking up to Daryl. Someone said, well, why would Henry reach out to Daryl? I don't think Henry will reach out to Daryl. I think Morgan is gone. Carol does not want kids. Carol doesn't want that responsibility. Carol is just aching when Ezekiel almost dies in the first episode. She knows where that commitment is. Ezekiel could definitely continue to work with Henry, but I think Henry has a little bit of... He reminds you a little bit of probably a young Daryl Dixon, right? Doing his own thing. He wants to start fighting. He's already killed at a young age. He's probably about Carl's age in the comic. Why not give him a little bit of that story? And let Daryl really take him under his wing a little bit more and create that next badass that Carl was. That Carl cannot be any longer because Carl had to save everybody from all-out war. So I'm going to open up to a couple comments and see what your thoughts are at this point. Henry is there for a reason. Do you guys think that Henry is just there to make bad decisions and open gates and let Gregory out? Or do you think that Henry is going to have a much, much bigger role coming up this season? So leave your thoughts. I'm going to call in a couple people here and see what you guys... Captain Crawford, absolutely, more Daryl. Finally earns his pay. I don't disagree with that at all. I think when they talk about Walking Dead salaries, comparatively speaking, I think Daryl was the most overpaid actor on the show compared to how they used him. Not compared to his popularity. I know people loving, I know he drives fans in, but based on his airtime, I think he was... Negan got more airtime. I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan should have been paid much, much more just for the stuff that he did. So Daryl's going to have to earn it. Petey Wheatstraw has a bit of a schoolboy crush on Cindy, so Daryl can't. You know, I think it's going to be one of those relationships that it's a good relationship, right? I mean, they're two good-looking people. They're going to be very popular people on the show. I think the show needs it. And what I like about it is I think this is a relationship that can happen on the fly. I'm not sure a lot of relationships can pull this off. I think it needs to be, hey, you know, what'd you do today? Come home. Good to see you, honey. You know, that type of thing. I think this can be a group where Cindy can show that toughness and Daryl can show that toughness, and I already think they have that in common. Paul, I think we're too eager a lot of times, and I do it, is to naturally pair people up. And I'll give you an example of another relationship that we've already decided in our minds has to happen. And I certainly said I thought the season would start out with Jesus and Aaron. It doesn't necessarily have to be Aaron with anybody. It could be Jesus and Alden. And here's why I say this. I think a lot of us have already booked Alden for Maggie, and he's very protective of her. However, Jesus did make a conscious decision to free him. How do we know there's not some interest there? And the same thing with Tara. We assume because Tara met the Oceanside that it was just going to be a relationship. Everybody that meets, whether they're hetero or homosexual, it doesn't matter. They're natural. They're not always going to have a romance or an interest. So we're going to have to take a step back and and analyze some of these relationships, I think, a little bit more. We like to piece them. We like to ship everything, but there are several different variations. So I'm doing it right now, and that's why I said it's open for debate. But the reason I want to talk about it is because it's not a relationship that a lot of people have openly discussed. And if Daryl and Cindy hit it off, then you guys will know that, hey, we did talk about this. But the reason I want to talk about the additional relationship, the bonding, the possible father-son relationship with Daryl and Henry, is I think that Henry is going to feel like a third wheel. And I think that is going to show Daryl's maturity and Daryl's change. And Daryl needs to have something to fight for. The problem with Daryl right now, he's too reckless. If Rick leaves or if Rick dies and Daryl is going to become that de facto leader of these groups, and here's why I tell you. All right, first of all, Maggie is probably dying. She's only signed for half the season. It's unlikely she's coming back. Rick is dying or leaving. It's unlikely we'll see him at least for a year and a half. So that leaves you with basically 2 leaders. Carol, maybe 3 if you want to throw Negan into the mix, but there's no way the group is going back and entrusting Negan. So in my mind, you have Daryl and Ezekiel. I'm going to ask you guys right now, if you guys can participate in this chat. Number one, everybody here, slap the like button for me. Show a little bit of love to the 999 Army. That way when people watch the playback, they know that the whole Army went over there, hit the like button, and we had a good time. So while you're doing that, I want to ask a follow-up question. The question is, which 2 do you see most likely to take over a leadership role? I know we're going to say Carol. I know there's a couple other people, and I'll give you reasons why I don't think that'll happen. But if I think of 2 people, if Rick and Maggie are gone, which 2 people I think would be most likely to lead would be Daryl or Ezekiel? Denise, if she's on the show, the reason I'm not picking Michonne is because I think she's going to play into the storyline, and I'm going to talk about that in 1 second. She certainly could lead. So a lot of people don't see Daryl's leaving. Absolutely. That's the point. Rick can lead, but Rick has not always done his best when chaos ensues. And this is, Denise, I'm going to get back to that in 1 second because I do want to talk about Michonne in a little bit. I think this season is going to start with the recovery, and I think it is going to be a whirlwind, a tornado, a just non-stop chaos. I don't think we're going to be watching Herschel's farm. I think it is going to be deception, deceit, new enemies, fear, danger lurking around every corner. So if you have to choose and you need a snap decision and there's a ton of people storming after you and you look to somebody to lead, at this moment, who are you picking? Are you picking Rick or are you picking Daryl? You look down the hill and there's 500 whispers coming at you. Who are you going to put your trust in? Anna says, I look to Carol. Negan would be an option. I got to be honest. If I want to live, I don't know Rick has always handled those situations very well. Let's think back a little bit through the history of Rick. Rick has led, but Rick has struggled as a leader. And he's certainly struggling now. He's doing his thing, and leadership, to some degree, is about building those relationships over several communities. So the relationship with Hilltop is not where it needs to be. So I want you to think about that for a little bit. A lot of times when I ask these questions, you guys are smart because you're already, and you know what? Lisa, Shane might not have been a bad choice for some of those decisions as well. But sometimes people answer, and they answer because they know that I'm trying to soften the blow of Rick leaving, which I am to a degree. So you got me on that one. I also think that it is awfully coincidental that Carl's dream, think about that for a minute. And we could probably do a whole video just on Carl's dream. About Rick growing up, about Negan being part of the community. Look, it was just a dream, a vision. But which two characters walked to the door and looked out and heard the music playing and saw the owl and saw that sanctuary? Pop quiz. You know. I'm planting a seed here. It was Rick and Judith, right? There was no Michonne. Could be just coincidental at this point. But Rick has not lost everything at this point. And I'm at that fork in the road where I'm playing out all these potential scenarios where Rick leaves. He leaves with Judith. He leaves with Michonne. Maybe Maggie's baby. Or Rick dies. And if Rick dies, how does Michonne go on? Does Michonne leave? Does she lead? Does she cope with it? There's a couple different scenarios. So it really depends on which scenario you think is going to play out. And give me 1 second, because I do want to give a shout out to Valar. If you guys don't know what a super chat is, there it is. So Valar is saying, hello 999 Army, Kill Steph, Kels, Emmy, Bree, Sweet Tommy, sponsors, Patreons, and all the super chatters. Thank you so much. Appreciate that super chat. Valar, better late than never, because we're going to dissect this Daryl situation, and we're going to think about different scenarios. Alicia, absolutely. Michonne could raise Judy. I'll give you that. But that image, why? There's two things, okay, that you have to think about. One is sometimes writers get us to think about things 6 months, a year in advance by making it a subliminal image. And it does seem coincidental, but sometimes it works itself out. Sometimes it means nothing. And I would not be surprised if seeing Rick and Judy there was a little bit of foreshadowing, even though it was Carl's dream. That it sort of gets our brains thinking a little bit of, okay, that's what it would be like if Rick ever had to seek refuge or protect Judith. But it wasn't Michonne, Judith, and Rick standing there looking out the door. And that concerns me. Which does lead me to believe that if Rick dies, Michonne dies. If Rick leaves, Michonne leaves. I think those two characters are so intertwined at this point that I see their storyline being the same. If I know Denai, her contract is signed, people have signed contracts for the whole year. That's not relevant to whether or not they'll be in every episode. Red Elastic, I'm just going to say, and this is the last time, if you're not a fan of the live streams, it's okay. Watch the playback. But you kind of make the same comment every video that I do. I haven't responded to it yet, but it's either your thing or it's not your thing. And if it's not, I respect that. Then you can certainly watch non-live stream videos. That comment's just, it just jumped out. After about the 10th time, I figured I would say something about it. Paul Eagle wants to know, would it be possible if Judith kills Rick? I don't think so, Paul. Thank you. Much better comment, Red. In all seriousness, I do think Daryl will take Rick's place on the show. Well, in a temporary capacity, we'll see. Judy is the future, says Abraham Olivero. She represents everything: the struggle, the sacrifice, the suffering, the pain, the love, the joy. She will lead everyone. You can't time skip that, though, 10 years. See, Walter White, that's the problem. I don't see... Michonne's different. She's so much different on the TV show than the comic. She was out there, and she was lonely, and she was with a lot of people in the comic. She stands for a lot more on the TV show, and I don't think that they're going to change that. I really don't. I think, and that's why I see what they've done with this character and her love interest with Rick. I think they're going hand in hand. And yes, a couple people typed a little bit earlier, could Michonne lead? She absolutely has the ability to lead. It's probably one of the plots on the show, though, that would be the hardest for me to grasp, her doing that without Rick. I think so. So that's where I think we got to give a couple different scenarios. So this is what I'm going with, and you guys don't have to agree with this. I'm just going to lay it out on the table, though. And if you have an alternate solution, then definitely type it. Chaos. Think back to what I said a couple minutes ago. Heads start showing up on spikes. Major characters dying. It's getting out of control really, really fast. You don't see it coming, and it's like, bam, this just happened, this just happened, this just happened. Maggie. Perhaps one of those. The group's looking around for leadership. Michonne possibly being one of those. Now, this would be the only thing that I could say could change the plot line. What if Michonne is one of the people that dies via whispers, and Daryl forces Rick to leave to take care of Judy? Thoughts? Too predictable? Too drastic for television? Rick loses the last that he has and cannot make those snap, quick, chaotic decisions. And Daryl, to protect Rick and Judy, says, you leave, I got this. I mean, that would satisfy the Daryl role of stepping up. It would force Daryl. And here's the reason why I would say that. It is predictable. What is going to make us as viewers see Daryl as a leader? Killing Rick is not going to accomplish that. Even an accidental. And let me, somebody typed this earlier. I do read your comments, believe it or not. And I respond to a lot of them. Someone typed on one of the videos and said, Daryl kills Rick, Norman didn't like the script, so on and so forth. I'm going to give that 0% chance of happening. And I'm going to tell you why. We saw Daryl go through the guilt of basically getting Glenn killed. We saw him locked up. We saw how he felt it was his responsibility. There is no chance that they're going to write a Daryl killing Rick into the storyline. He would be, if Daryl killed Rick, he might as well go join the Whispers. If Daryl accidentally killed Rick, his character would just be destroyed. That's not going to happen. I will eat the script if that happens. And Denise, I agree with that. Denise Hopkins says it's time for Denied to leave. She has too much to do. So, 3 choices that I'm going to give you just for that storyline. Something goes down, and Rick, maybe Maggie dies. Rick, Michonne, Judy, and Herschel leave to find safety. Okay, there's one. Number 2, Michonne dies, Rick dies. That we lose some major characters. And that we're forced into a semi-reboot. Or number 3, Michonne dies via whispers. Daryl, showing how much he cares about Rick, tells him to leave. You leave, you take care of your family. I'll stay here and fight. I'll stay here and die. I'll stay here and do whatever to take care of these people. And Rick leaves. Those are 3 potential scenarios. And it works well with the nice movie schedule. It works well with Rick, Andrew Lincoln wanting a break, either a permanent break or a temporary break. A couple of those scenarios would open the door for Rick to come back. And the follow-up question to that is, and I need to know this because I need to know your thoughts. What forces us to see Daryl as a leader? Now, option 3 would accomplish that, right? Now, we got chaos, we got snap decisions, we got Daryl. We're forced to, as viewers, our role is kind of like, we're the Tobins of the world, right? I mean, we're just like a B character that's hanging out waiting for Rick or Daryl or Carol or Ezekiel or somebody to make a decision. That's who we are as viewers. Which is why I ask you how Daryl would respond to chaos, and I think he responds well. Joni, I understand that. She said Daryl's no leader, he is a loner. But I need you to give me a scenario in which Daryl could be a leader. Because I've given a few. It's okay, Nacho. Throwing some ideas out there. You don't have to like the idea. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Jennifer Grip says Daryl could prove himself. How would he prove himself? Daryl's going to need to step up. Daryl needs more airtime. You know, that's a good question, Wilani. Daryl would be a last resort. Is Ezekiel dead when this occurs? That's a great question. So let me kind of recap a couple ideas that I think would cast Daryl in a different light. Something to fight for. Strong relationship with Cindy, somebody that he cares about. Something to prove, I think would change a little bit of our perspective. A bond with Henry, I think would change our perspective. You know what? I don't disagree with that last comment right there. 2 comments in a row. Northside Queen and Maiko the Psycho. Less grunting and more talking. Absolutely. A relationship, well, I guess there could be a certain amount of grunting in a relationship, might actually force them to talk from time to time after the cigarette. And then the relationship with Henry would also force him to lead and to train and to teach and to have something that's important to him. So if Daryl is a loner, he needs a bigger family. And a bath. A bath would not hurt. How are you going to teach Henry to brush his teeth if you don't even brush your own teeth? Gina Crockett says, Daryl doesn't give up. Remember how he was when he was looking for Carol's daughter. So he has some of the qualities of a leader. Drama says, I need to see a Daryl plan and execute a situation before I can believe him. Definitely something that could be written into the script. Chosen One says, Maggie Michonne. Head on a spike. Rick leaves with Judy. Herschel, Daryl, and Cindy take over as leaders. Just as the spoilers start to come out, these are the bold predictions. These are the things that I really want to analyze as they start to happen. Bumblebee Brown says Daryl isn't going to get a love interest until he starts washing. Bumblebee, I would disagree. I think there's at least 50 ladies in our stream that would say otherwise. They'll take Daryl however he is. Good point. This devolved into a Daryl bathing session. We went from Daryl replacing Rick to Daryl maybe bathing, maybe not. Correct, Paul. So King Ezekiel does get spiked in the comics. So does Rosita. I think they might up their game. I could see more than a few. That's why I wanted to use the word chaos. Because I want to feel like there's no hope. That it is a worse enemy. That there's more fear than we had with the saviors. You know what was scary about the saviors? That was the creepy thing with the saviors. Of all the things that they did, once you actually saw them, then they're just people. But when they have you surrounded out in the woods, and they tied up the group and threw them in the back of the van, and then they had to watch the beatdown. That was what was scary about the saviors. And then after the first few episodes, they just started making a lot of them look like, oh, wait a minute, there's people that live in the sanctuary. Yeah, oh, they make things. Oh, yeah, they have points. Yeah, there's some corruption in there, and the leader is a little twisted, but there's some decent people there, right? But the whispers, I feel like, are going to always keep us on the defensive. So if the writers can accomplish that, Rick's not the person to lead. And I'm sorry if I'm offending the person who said, I used to watch your streams at work, but you want to blame Rick for everything. I don't feel like at this point that Rick is going to bring everybody together. I don't feel like Rick is going to be prepared. In fact, everybody in this stream, even the 60 of you that have not hit the like button yet, everybody in the stream, we are all B characters on The Walking Dead. And today, based on what you know, if the Whispers attacked Rick and Alexandria, or they attacked Maggie at Hilltop, who's better prepared to fend off the Whispers today? Knowing what you know in spoilers in episode number 1. I would say Maggie. Because from the spoilers we talked about, and at the end of last season, Maggie was emphatic that she said, next time, we're going to be prepared. Maggie. So we don't even know that Rick has his group prepared right now. But Maggie does. If it gets twisted and it gets violent in a hurry. So I'm not bashing Rick. I'm just saying that his leadership skills are starting to falter for the next enemy. So if Rick's not prepared right now and Maggie is, then I don't know. If I'm you, I would ask the question again I asked a little bit earlier, like if you had to make a snap decision, you're looking down the hill, which group are you going to go over to? I think we'll probably mostly go over to the Hilltop if you want to live. Now, she's got food. She's been preparing. She's set up. There you go, Casey. Casey just hit it. Rick is done with fighting. You guys feel like that? How many people agree with KCF? That He had a chance to kill Negan. He's drained from the war. Carl wanted this all to end. Rick's done. Rick wants a break. Then that is not the person, as bad as I want to say it, as bad as we want Andrew Lincoln. Look, I've been avoiding this topic for a long time. We need somebody else to lead. For now. I am officially, as of this video today, I am giving Andrew Lincoln my blessing. I hope he leaves and comes back recharged, refreshed, ready to pick up the pieces from something that is going to be fast-paced, chaotic, dire, diabolic, no gray area, completely black and white. The Whispers are bad. The Whispers are going to kill. The Whispers are going to torture. It's not paint the Saviors evil and then bring them back in. It's going to be bad. Rick does not have the juice at this point. Dolores Byrd, Rick does not have it in him right now to beat the Whispers. He can't do it. He can't manufacture it. Carl's legacy has drained him at this point. He's got to go. We need Negan. We need Daryl. We need Carol. We need vengeance. Rick's got to go figure it out. But we need him to leave and come back. I don't want to see him die. I don't want to see him be a victim of the Whispers. And if that's the case, we got to be on the ride. We are going to have to, season 9, we're going to have to give Daryl his due. And the writers know this about us. And the writers are going to have to plant these seeds to get us as viewers, because being a viewer is very much like being that character that's just over there watching and waiting and seeing what's going to happen. So when the writers write this out this year, they're going to have to give us this Daryl opportunity. And I fought it. I didn't do streams to talk about it. We've talked about other scenarios because it is hard for me to look at Daryl based on his character up to this point. But I'm going to change that a little bit. It's not impossible. It's not impossible that Daryl has been okay letting Rick do his thing. It doesn't mean that Daryl couldn't have done it before. He hasn't been forced into that situation. And if he is forced in that situation, I do think the writers, and all kidding aside, are going to have more dialogue and less grunting. More to fight for and less carelessness. Those are the traits that I see making Daryl somebody that people, as viewers and as those B characters that we are, it's going to say, you know what? Okay, we don't have any choice. You're our man. What are you going to do? He has the tools, but they're going to have to be refined a little bit, Gina. Walking Dead Nerd says, Daryl and Carol will step up to lead communities. Daryl gets Rick's storyline, and Carol already got Michonne's from the comic. Very good point. Now, let me say this. If Rick dies, Daryl will get a lot more of Rick's storyline. If Rick leaves, Daryl could get pieces of his storyline, and they could still keep the TV show different from the comic. But we had the batter, we've made the cake, we have the icing on the cake. So the cherry on top of the cake, and I did a stream earlier today called The Blame Game. And in that, one of the things that I talked about is the fact that AMC and Robert Kirkman do not want the show to mirror the comic any longer. Let this sink in for a second. So everything that you know about the Walking Dead comic, everything that you know about the graphic novel, the desire is for it not to be the same any longer. The comic has its own identity. The Walking Dead develops its characters and has its own identity. So when we do say that someone's taking someone's story, we have to do it, I won't necessarily say with a grain of salt, but I will say that we have to realize it's a guide. It's not a destination. They can add elements of it. They can add some of the characters, but change the end result. So I do think we will see I think we'll see the Whisperers in some capacity. I don't necessarily know that it'll be the same names, the same story, the same how Negan is involved, how Beta is involved. I can see it as a guide, but not as it's going to happen this way. Where there's some excitement like, hey, we get to see the Whisper. Oh, man, they're dark. And then we don't know what they're going to do. I'm going to get back to that in 1 second because we have a super chat. And this is OU Captain Crawfish that says, not sure Daryl will kill it. Your SOP is, I'm going to kill that son of a bitch. Yeah, Daryl is, I don't think that'll be his dialogue any longer. It's also going to change the way he sees people as a resource. That's a good point. When the wolves came on to take on the Whisperers when they came on the scene. Well, and Chosen One says comics should be the study guide, the show will be the test. I think that's along that. David Brooks said want to see a Negan and Beta fight, but David, a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't want it to play out that way, and I do think that you'll start to see the TV audience and the comic audience as two separate groups. And for a long time, we've all just been sort of thrown into the same pot. Which would be interesting with Dwight as well. Because we know how Daryl feels about Dwight. So there's going to have to be some organization. There's going to have to be some forgiveness. There's going to have to be some, what's worse? Dwight, who you're going to need to forgive, or a whole bunch of Whispers that are coming up to torture you? Jessica wants to know if Drama has a man crush on Drama does speak about Daryl quite often in the bathing. That's not even a super chat, but we could definitely spotlight that. Villar, that's a great point too. Is to make the fights much better like before. Well, here's something that I do think will happen this season, and I think it's going to be very tough for old school Walking Dead fans to get. And this is where, as fans, we have to evolve. I'm going to say it once again, and I know it's not a popular internet opinion. I know some people are going to go, they're going to say, well, Trev doesn't say that, and Ronnie doesn't say that. Well, you know what? I'm kill shot, and I'm going to say it. As fans, we need to evolve and stop putting our eggs in that when this character dies, I'm going to quit watching the show. When this character dies, the show is dead. Because one thing about Game of Thrones, they kill whoever the hell they want to kill, whenever they want to kill them, however they want to kill them. And they do it in such shocking, awesome fashion. We move on, and we come back and we watch it again the next week. So I would love to see a whole bunch of main characters just get whacked this season and see who leaves the show. And if you leave, you leave. Just go. I love The Walking Dead. I love Rick. I'm moving on if Rick dies. I'm going to analyze it and talk about it and try to understand it. And maybe I understand it. Maybe I don't understand it. Maybe a bad season. Maybe next season will be a bad season. But you know what? I'll probably keep watching it until it gets good like Fear again. That's just the way it goes. So, somebody keeps typing on one of the videos and says, I don't know who it was, but his comment every day on one of the streams I do, he says, that's it. Rick's dying. And I'm telling you, after Rick dies, I'm not watching the show anymore. I mean, if we get a spoiler out there and Rick does die, my question is he even going to watch that? Because he's probably going to. But if you know he's going to die and you're not going to watch, you should probably save yourself watching how he dies, if it's confirmed. Well, you know what, Lon Bonner? You make a great point. Lon Bonner says the difference with Game of Thrones is it builds the secondary characters so well they can step up. Walking Dead has not done a good job of pushing those replacements. Here's where I'm going to disagree with you. Wholeheartedly. I don't think the fans have done a good enough job of embracing the secondary characters on The Walking Dead because they're so busy saying that when Shane dies, I'm not watching anymore. When Andrea dies, I'm not watching anymore. If they kill Dale, I'm not going to watch the show. If Norman dies, Daryl dies, I'm not watching the show. There's a whole slew of secondary characters they built up. Most of the characters out there today, I mean, look at the characters that were secondary characters at some point. I love your opinion on it, but I'm just going to disagree for a second. I think some of the secondary characters are awesome. But we have to get into their storylines. We have to give them the opportunity. Is The Walking Dead truly a story about Rick Grimes, or are they trying to make it a story about surviving in a world where there's fear around and danger around every corner? I told you, the gloves are going to come off. This does not constitute a rant, by the way. David Brooks, Kills, do you think Negan and Ann could get into a relationship? Absolutely. David Brooks, well, let me say, and we will go back. I am the first person to ever stream that relationship would happen. The same night when Negan paid the visit, and it hasn't happened yet, but I will take credit for it if it does, because a lot of people in here laughed at me when I said it. I remember the stream. I remember the stream like it was yesterday. And I said, I'm going to make a bold love prediction that Negan and Jadis at the time, I said it's going to be Negan and Jadis. And they almost ran me out of the stream. But it still is a ways away. It may not ever happen. But if it does, I will definitely be, yeah. I'll be celebrating it. If it doesn't, I'll blame it on somebody else. I'll say someone else streamed it before me. How about that? Exactly, right? Okay. Hey, everybody, we're at 55 minutes, and we've had pretty extensive chat tonight. Just a couple highlights I want to talk about once again. If you caught the end of the stream and you didn't really go through, because there's some good comments. I wished I had time to read every single comment that streams. But at least you're getting your thoughts included in this video. So people watching the playback, take a little bit of time and read some of it. A lot of good character, a lot of good thought there. Hold on, I do want to see. Lakeisha's got a comment here and says, "Oh my God, the reason why I got different is because the universe is different and follows the books. The Walking Dead isn't following the comics." No, it's not. Lakeisha, it's gonna deviate a whole lot more from that. And from the articles I read, and this is why I put it in the stream I did earlier today. And if you guys haven't watched it, go back and check out the video. It's called The Blame Game. And it is Gimple talking about how he wanted to reenact the comics exactly the way the comics were and show it on television. And Kirkman actually started giving resistance and saying, no, we need to start to change this up. And then Gimple started changing it up, and then, who killed who suggests they kill who, that's all open for debate. But the goal is that the comics and the show, because the show is going to pass the comics at some point. So it'll eventually make people feel like the show is leading Robert Kirkman's thoughts, and they don't want that. They want it to be two separate entities and different battles and different things. So you will see a few more of the things, I think, from the comics thrown out there, but 2 years from now, I think we've got two totally different things. Captain Crawfish, bet you don't have it to go another 20 minutes. Crawfish, I am going to agree with you and say you are absolutely right. If you guys were not involved in random things last night, it was like an hour and 50 minutes. And keep in mind, when we do these streams, there are no commercial breaks. Unless you're watching the playback, then there are. And if you watch the ads, that is a great thing. If you click on the ads, that's a great thing. I can't tell you to do that because that would be a violation of YouTube policy, but it is always a good thing if you watch the advertisements at the beginning of videos. I do not, because in most talk shows, Crawfish, an hour talk show is only about 25 to 30 minutes of actual talking. And when we do these streams, I'm actually talking for an hour to an hour and a half. So tonight I am going to agree with you, and we're going to wind this thing down. Thank you. I appreciate all the people saying love this channel. Just once again, one last call. You guys could slap that like button. Once this video goes live, leave some comments. If you see people making a comment on their comment, because a lot of times the negative comments show up, and everything you guys are typing along the side will show up. But leave some of the comments down below as well, and just let people know that we're Walking Dead fans, that we don't always agree with everything that happens on the show, but we are Walking Dead fans, which is why we get together every night. We're not Walking Dead haters. We don't get here to break it apart and to talk about the death and destruction of the show. We get together to appreciate it. Sometimes it's a little harder to appreciate than other times, but in my mind, it is still phenomenal. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Real quick recap, if you missed some of it. We talked a little bit about Daryl's salary. We talked about what things would have to happen to make Daryl into a leadership. I am hell-bent on the fact that a strong relationship and a little one to look up to, and I think Henry would qualify for that. I also think there's potential scenarios where Rick could die and potential scenarios where Rick could leave. We'll talk about that in some future streams as well. I'm unsure about Michonne's fate, but I do think Michonne's fate will tie into Daryl's directly, because if Michonne were to die, then Daryl would become a de facto leader. If Michonne lives, that would make it a little bit tougher, because I do see Michonne having those leadership skills, but I just see her and Rick as one and the same. So whatever the writers decide to do with him, I think they'll also do with her. And I think this season is going to be a very, very chaotic season. And a couple people mentioned they need to get back to the fighting, but something has to jar us. Something has to make us hate the Whispers. And I think killing off a lot of our dearly beloved characters would instigate that. It would really, really get us riled up. So there you go. OU Captain Crawfish with the final super chat of the night is saying, hey, everybody, Gregory the like button. So I guess with that being said, we're not going to hang around very much longer. Oh, see what I did? Okay. All right. If you guys get that, you get it. I want to say thanks to everybody. Everybody's new. Make sure you guys subscribe. Hang out with us. We want as many ideas as possible. Also, you can catch our Facebook fan page, The Walking Dead 999 Army. Over on the left, you can see we got Fear the Walking Dead tanks. We got Walking Dead 999 Army representing. It is summertime, so there's some summer colors out there. If you go to a Walker Stalker, if you go to a Comic-Con, snap some pictures. You happen to be repping the 999 Army gear. Kel, if you could leave a link. So if you guys want to know where to get that, it's threadless.com/999gear. Or if you go to Threadless and type in 999 Gaming, you'll find us there. And that's all we got. So if you're watching as a playback, this is the closing credits. And if you're still here, give me a quick 999, and I'll give you a shout out. Captain Crawfish is, absolutely got the pun there. Thanks, Crawfish. Appreciate that. And I do want to say what's up to Lisa. Crawfish, of course. Walking Dead nerd. When I see some of these coming up, I do want to tell you guys, Patreons, you guys can see up in the top right all the people support our channel. Over on the left, we got sponsors. Sponsors, you guys hit the sponsor button down below. You will get a custom badge. You also get some custom emojis. Some people start typing 999. You can see the 999 emoji. And also, you support an awesome channel and the gear as well, too. So thank you for all of that. The moderators want to say what's up to Emmy, Steph, Tommy, Kells, doing a great job. You guys show a little bit of love for the moderators. They are here almost every single night working hard. Love what they do. So thank you for all the dedication. There you can see Kel's link right there. And everybody else, the 999 Army. We would not be here without your comments, without your interaction, without your participation. Thank you so much, Bumblebee Brown, Dakota Page, the Catnat, Rublo's channel, Hippo in the House, Walani, David Brooks. Appreciate your interaction tonight. Jessica Woodmus, thank you. John Grant, appreciate you being here, John. Randall Roundtree, good to see you, Randall. Randall, I might have missed you in the last couple streams, but good to see you. Maurice Gamble, thank you. Joni Tucker, Graffiti Saint. I am so hyped about the Walking Dead Season 9 trailer. We will break it down, super slow-mo freeze frame, like unbelievable. Hippo reps the 999 Army at Comic-Con in Foxwood Casino. That's what I'm talking about. If you guys want to see pictures of Hippo repping us, then when those get posted, check out the Facebook fan page. Thank you, Michelle M. Appreciate you being here. Zelda Faz, thank you. Watch the playback, Zelda. Mitch True, thank you as well. A little bit of silence here. I'm just waiting to figure out who I shouted out, who I didn't. We're just hanging out. Thanks, Drama King. Good to see you. Appreciate you being involved. Gina Crockett. Melinda Kettler, thank you. Sergeant Chosen One, always a pleasure. That is very true. I do want you guys to know, and Captain Crawfish, thank you for bringing it up. Steph is modding while she's on vacation. She's been on vacation for, I think, a little bit over a week and been a part of most of these streams. So, yeah, that is just some awesome dedication. And want to give a special shout out to Steph's family for being patient as well. Arthurine James, thank you. Eric C., what's up, Eric? Thanks, man. And I might have missed them a little bit earlier, but I saw Denise Hopkins, Dolores Bird. Thank you, for your comments, your participation. DJ Flexmaster in the house. Who else we got here? I can scroll back up. Maria, I might have missed you earlier. Sam B., I know I missed you. Mama Missy, I think I missed you earlier. Lenore, Lakeisha, Paul Eagle, Carol Leathers. I'm probably doing double shout-outs in some regard. But if I miss you in a shout-out, please don't ever take it personally. Send me a message. Type it in the comments below. Carrie Major. You can always watch the playback, but I'll give you a shout-out as well. And you guys can always, if you have a Walking Dead theory or something that you want to run by me, then just send me a kick message, KILZHOT. All right, I'm going to sign out now. Otherwise, OU Captain Crawfish will be correct, and he would have gotten that extra 20 minutes. You got close, Crawfish. I will talk to you all tomorrow night. It'll be we're 50-50 right now, so we'll either get back into our Game of Thrones or we'll have another Walking Dead topic. Stay tuned. There will be a stream tomorrow night. I'll let you know. There'll probably be some streams throughout the day, too, so catch me if you can. Peace.